Ladies and gentlemen, it is that time. It is time for a Diablo 3 patch. I am your host, KageKaze, and as I tend to do, I am going to read at you some patch notes. Why? Because I know some people do not like to actually read them, some people want to actually just hear them, and some people might want to just hop into the game and hear what the changes are as they're experiencing them. It happens, and I've done this in the past with patch notes. People were, kind of liked the idea, so I'm going to revisit it here. It's been a while since I've really had a nice changelog of patch notes to go over. So in case you've been hiding under a rock or not paying attention or just have decided to wait until Reaper of Souls came out before you started paying attention, today's the big day. Patch 2.0.1 has officially gone live. It's on the servers now. In fact, not too long ago, the US servers went live a little bit early. I was expecting them to be down for a few more hours due to the maintenance getting extended several times today. The game has been down all day. So let's take a look at it, what we've got in here, and this right here, what you're seeing is the extensive list of changes. So if you haven't been following along with the changes from beta to beta, because there have been a lot of beta patches, some things, have gone up, down, whatever, this should be the extensive log coming officially from Blizzard themselves. So, starting with the general notes, we have the pools of reflection, which have been added to the game. This is a mechanic that I hadn't actually seen in the PTR yet, but I have heard about it, and it goes into our discussion that we've had before about rewards for surviving rather than punishing death. We have this, the pools of reflection. They provide a 25% bonus to your experience. When you find a pool, the bonus persists until you reach a certain amount of bonus experience, basically 10% of your current Paragon experience in order to reach the next level. Gathering additional pools of reflection will increase the amount of total experience bonus a character can receive, stacking up to 10 times. So what that means is you find 10 pools and you have one Paragon level worth of experience that's getting 25% additional experience. So you are getting this additional buff to your experience as you survive and as you find these pools. And the experience bonus persists on logout. So you can get these pools, you can log out, and you've still got it. And as long as you live, you keep it. The moment you die, you lose it all. So there you go. It's a reward for playing, for finding these things, and so if you can keep the stack up, you can increase your leveling speed fairly dramatically. They go on to list about Nephilim Glory. You may have seen that in some of the videos I put out. Occasionally during battle, monsters will drop these golden power globes when damaged or killed. The power globes grant you Nephilim Glory buff, which causes the player to deal additional damage in the form of golden lightning, and it increases movement speed for a short time. It stacks up to 3 times. Now, during my testing periods, I only ever got up to 2. And the beautiful thing was, every time you got a new stack, the effect looked more and more impressive. When you got the first one, you kind of glue golden just a little bit. There wasn't too much there. The second one, you really started to see the gold lightning. It was more pronounced. I would like to see the third one. I can only imagine it'll get more crazy from there. They go on to talk about the new stats that have been introduced. We have toughness, healing, splash damage, cooldown reduction, and resource cost reduction. You might think some of those don't seem new, but you have to keep in mind they are now new to gear. So certain gear, mostly legendaries, unique items, had some of these stats like cooldown reduction or something like that, resource cost reduction. Now they are actually stats that will occur on kind of standard gear. The toughness and healing thing is really just kind of a redesign of your defensive stats as they were prior to this patch. So what your armor was is now toughness, and toughness takes into effect not just your armor, but your healing abilities, your regeneration, and things like that. Lifesteal, basically, you've probably already heard this one. It's been redesigned. It's pretty much less effective, pretty much gone at higher levels. At level 60, it's 10% as effective as it used to be, and then at level 70, it just doesn't even work anymore. I'm not even sure if it drops as a stat anymore. It might. I know it is pretty much off of skills at this point, so the skills have been completely redesigned. You now have the ability to resurrect multiple times in place when you die. Now, you may have seen, again, a video I did about difficulty in Diablo, where I was not too keen on this. However, looking at this patch note, it looks like they've changed it a little bit, and I don't quite disagree with what they're doing here now. I'm a little more calm, relaxed about what they're doing with this. So you can choose to resurrect at your body in town or at the last checkpoint. You may not resurrect at your body during a boss encounter. So that's the good news. So bosses will still be challenging, well, kind of. Players may only resurrect at their body a maximum of 3 times in a row. So the worry about just constantly throwing yourself at an enemy really isn't a big deal, because if the enemy really is too hard for you, then you're going to have 3 and you're done. And then you have to walk back through the checkpoint, and then you can start all over again. They mentioned that the hitbox have been adjusted to more closely represent the character models, so it should make it a lot easier to tell if you're going to dodge something or not. And the male and female models have the same bounding box for that. Followers automatically level with your characters now. I like that change. It was always kind of weird that my follower was a little bit behind me with experience. I like that the followers, much like the monsters, are going to kind of mimic your level now. Quests occasionally grant items. That was one thing I noticed during the play testing. Gold can no longer be traded. That's an interesting one. That's not one I was expecting. So right now with this patch, the interesting thing is this patch is coming while the auction house is still active. So some items are still going to find their way between players. Gold is they're not going to let you trade it, and this is going to be something that goes into Reaper. So when the auction house is gone, you cannot trade gold between people anymore. So what you find on the ground is yours, and only yours. The thing here is, because the auction house is still up, you can still sell the gold. They haven't made gold bind on account. They have simply made it so you cannot trade it between players. So while the auction house is still live, you can still buy and sell gold. Once Reaper of Souls, or once the auction house specifically is shut off, which is a week before the release of Reaper, then you will no longer be able to trade gold in any fashion whatsoever. This is kind of a surprise, so it's really trying to enforce kind of a trade economy rather than gold economy, and which could work. I mean, there's really no tools in the game right now to trade, other than to click on a portrait and you can trade between people. Not only that, but high-end legendaries are bind on account and only tradable after you've been in a party with or if you've been in a party with people when it dropped. So you're looking at the high-end legendary stuff not being tradable, but some of the other items, such as rares, I do believe will still be tradable. The graphic engine has been updated to support reflections, so that's going to be a graphical detail that we will see in Reaper. I'm not sure we'll see any changes there in the base game from Acts 1 to 4, but I'm sure we'll definitely see that in 5. Alright, moving on to bosses. Many bosses had their mechanics revisited and retuned. Following bosses have received changes to their encounter: Magda, Siegebreaker, Asmodon, Iskatu. Now, I haven't been to Asmodon Iskatu. Siegebreaker, I believe, refers to the fact that his reflect damage is a little bit different than most normal monsters. I'm not sure. But Magda, I know, her change is a lot more adds. She used to put her shield up and summon 4 adds. She now summons summoners, which in turn summon adds. So her encounter has been made more difficult by the fact it has normal enemies in it. So most bosses really haven't been too difficult because their own individual damage hasn't been terribly high for some of their abilities. In this case, Magda can be a threat because she will summon monsters that might be a threat. So in addition, enrage timers for the following bosses are only enabled in Torment difficulty and above. So anything under Torment you won't have to worry about in Rage. You have the Butcher, Zoltan Kuhl, Belial, Gom, Siegebreaker, and Rakanoth. All classes have, at this point, gone through significant changes. Now, they actually aren't including the changes to classes in these patch notes because it is so massive. This set of patch notes I'm reading right now is actually fairly lengthy, and the class changes is just even more so. They're basically saying, go in, see for yourself. They're going to release the class changes, the overall class changes, in a second set of patch notes. Probably may not, I'm guessing it won't be tonight as of this recording, but will probably happen the next night. It's pretty extensive. I mean, there have been so many class changes from each beta patch or each beta pull from the server, and it's crazy trying to keep what's been up, what's down. It's really different now. Some skills are learned at different levels now. Some skills have been removed and replaced. It's definitely the leveling experience will be a lot different, and builds in general are going to be quite a bit different at this point, it looks like. Moving on to crafting and the artisans, crafting has received several quality of life changes. Crafting materials have been condensed into 2 tiers, from 1 to 60 and 60 to 70. The change is to reduce the amount of stash space consumed by crafting materials and simply order the crafting recipes, or simplify older crafting recipes, my apologies. All crafting materials currently in character inventories and stashes have been converted accordingly. So you may go to your stash and notice that a lot of stuff has been converted to a singular type of material, which will make it a lot easier to craft in that particular bracket, the 1 to 60 in this case. All crafted items drop with stats that are appropriate to your character that's crafting, using the Loot 2.0 Smart Drop system. So that means you're never going to see stats like strength on a Witch Doctor item. It will completely use the Smart Drop system. That's something you probably have already know or have seen, especially if you've taken a look at any videos from not only myself but anyone else that's been covering it, to see how the Smart Loot system is. Now, I have said one thing I dislike about this is it does make it difficult to craft items for followers, because the Smart Loot system doesn't seem to take them into effect when crafting at this time, or at least in the last time I checked it. It may have changed. I will have to go in and do some testing. Now, items purchased from vendors are flagged as such and cannot be salvaged. This was in response to the common debris issue. People were finding issues with common debris, finding them, and they were going creating level 1 characters and just buying a bunch of white items to salvage. They've prevented that. You now have to get all of your salvage from items you find on the ground. So if you were holding on to white items before the patch, good, because you might need them at this point if you plan on crafting right away. So looking at the difficulty system, this one definitely has gone through quite a bit of a change from Diablo as we knew it. So for those of you who, again, haven't been paying attention, because I'm still seeing threads to this day that people are like, hey, I played at release and I haven't played since. What's happening? What's going on with Reaper? Tell me. So this is one of the biggest changes. The difficulty system has been removed as far as Nightmare, Hell, Inferno is concerned. You don't have to play through the game 4 times in a row anymore. Difficulty is dynamic. Monsters will level up with your character. You're level 1, they're level 1. You're level 25, they're level 25. The difficulty now determines kind of multipliers on monster damages, health, and experience, and things like that. The new difficulty settings are normal, hard, expert, master, and torment. And torment has a slider that goes from 1 to 6. So monster power is gone. Torment 1 to 6 is a quasi-replacement for monster power. Master will unlock once you complete Act 4. So when you start the game, you have normal, hard, expert, and that's it. Now, if you completed Act 4, that's when you get Master. If you hit a level 60, you get Torment, which is a great change. Previously, you had to have Reaper in order to get Torment, because you needed a level 70 character. Torment levels include the difficulty sliders I talked about, offering an additional 6 adjustments, which have increased rewards. And you can see the rewards listed there when you choose your difficulty. It will let you know exactly what you're getting out of this difficulty mode. Each level offers new bonuses, and again, it's visible there on the difficulty selection menu. You can lower the difficulty setting in-game. So if you decide to pick a difficulty level and you decide, you know what, this is too difficult, I need to bring it down, you simply hit Escape, go into the menu there, and you can lower the difficulty. You can lower it 1 step at a time. So for example, if you're in Torment 6, you lower it, it's going to go down to Torment 5. If you want to be out of Torment, you're going to have to do that 5 more times until you get back down into Master level. This option has been disabled in hardcore mode, so that was kind of a controversy there, because you're going in hardcore mode, you're not doing so well, like, oh, I better lower the difficulty before I die. And yeah, they first played with the difficulty not changing right away, there being a lag time between it so that you couldn't just save yourself before you took a big hit or something. And then they're like, no, we'll just take it out for hardcore mode, because that's what a lot of hardcore players wanted to have that. Now, to account for all these changes, the monster density has been adjusted. So monster density is going to be a little bit lower than you may be used to since the monster density changes. If you've been playing at any point during the last few patches where they really increased the monster density, it's not going to be quite that much. But the levels should still be fairly populated. They made this change for twofold. One was, of course, server issues, because they noticed with the more monsters it was causing a much bigger hit on server performance. And the other was, with so many monsters, it caused more of an AoE style gameplay, and they want people to be able to pick and choose how they play, not have to always think, oh well, I have to make an AoE build because there's so many monsters. They want you to be able to make like a single target build and maybe add some splash damage from items in order to pick off small groups. Alright, a new event has been added called the Cursed Chest. Chests and shrines around Sanctuary have a chance to be cursed. Starts an event. Like other events, completing a cursed chest or shrine provides a small golden experience reward, as well as either a radiant chest or a random shrine buff. The events offer a variety of challenges, including endless monster waves and timed events. The Infernal Machines, Torment level difficulty is required for those now. There has been a change to the percentage that you get not only the keys, but the organs at. I believe at Torment 1 it's like a 25% chance that you will find the item. So it's much better than it used to be. Monster Power 1, it was a 10% chance. In order to get a 30% chance, you had to be in Monster Power 3. So now you get a 25 at 1, I believe it's like a 30% at 2, and it goes up to 50% at Torment 6. So you don't have a guaranteed chance to get the organs or the keys. It only ever goes up to 50%. It's not listed here in the patch notes. They did list that in another note on a previous blue post. So the new Loot 2.0. This is the big deal right here. What is going to make Reaper of Souls Reaper of Souls? So, again, I know this is going to be an old hat for some people, but again, in case you haven't been checking it out, if you haven't been paying attention to the game, maybe you got bored, maybe you didn't care, maybe now you're curious. Legendary and set items. They're now bound on account. Now here's the caveat to that I had tried to mention earlier. Players in multiplayer games, they can trade legendaries and set items with others who were present for the drop. This is allowable up to 2 hours after the item is acquired. So you have plenty of time to trade it to a friend if you're in a party with them. After that, it's completely bind on account. You can't trade it to anyone else. The smart drop system, as talked about in the crafting. All items that drop have a chance to roll as smart drop. It shouldn't be all. It shouldn't be a majority. Although through some testing I did, it was hard to tell. It seemed like more loot was smart than not, but they have a chance. Smart loot items will roll intelligently based on the character being played. So a wizard is more likely to find items with intelligence or bonus to wizard skills than a barbarian. Class-specific items will no longer roll stats inappropriately to their class. So intelligence will no longer appear on mighty weapons or belts. They should always have either their primary stat or nothing at all in that position. New item affixes have been added, as goes again. We have splash damage, so a percentage of the damage you do can go off to other characters. Again, you can make a single target build with some splash. Cooldown reduction, resource cost reduction, percent damage to physical damage, and specific class skill bonuses. The item properties have been separated into primary and secondary now. So when an item drops, it has a set number of primary stats, a set number of secondary stats. This way, the items should be a lot more even than they ever were before. Because a primary stat will only ever roll in that primary location, so a secondary stat won't take over. Like if you were expecting to get strength or int and bonus experience went on there instead, you don't get that anymore. You can see the primary stats. You've got the strength, dex, int, vital, crit damage, crit chance, attack speed, life per second, so the regeneration is on there, as well as other defensive stats like armor, plus percentage to life. You have bonus damage to elites, bleed damage, resistances, sockets are considered primary, and all new fixes that have been added. The secondary will be your gold find. Thorns is considered secondary, although there are some, you can make thorns be a primary stat for you if you're building that. There are certain skills and items that will help with that. Bonus experience for monster kill, chance for fear, stun, blind, freeze, cold, chill, blah, blah, blah. Ignore durability loss is a secondary, as well as bonus healing to health globes and potions. Pickup radius. Single resist is a secondary. So all resist is a primary, single resist is a secondary. Life after kill and level requirement reduction is there, which is still a little awkward now that items tend to drop at the level you are playing at, but possibly used for trading to other characters. So prevent stats that directly and indirectly increase character power from competing with one another. So I honestly think they've done a good job with that. Items feel a lot more even keel, and it is usually generally easier to find upgrades for your character with the new system as it is. At least if you're starting fresh. I know some people with 60s with the gear they have now might not have as easy a time of it. Stat ranges have been tightened up, so instead of having an item that can roll between 1 to 200, it might be 140 to 200. Legendary powers will roll in a range, so it's much more like the unique items of Diablo 2 now. So the example they list here is the Legendary Spirit Stone. It says the Laws of Seth has the legendary affix using Blinding Flash restores spirit. It can be anywhere between 75 to 100. So it more closely resembles the unique items that we got used to in D2, which is kind of nice to see. You can view the stat ranges on items by holding control, which is a nice little benefit there, so you can tell if an item rolled high or low. Legendary items have been reworked with one or all of the, with basically everything that we just talked about are put in mind on legendary items, so they're going to be a lot more powerful than they were. Potions have been condensed to a single type, so no longer do you have to have 5 or 6 different type of potions. They all provide a 60% health, provide 60% of your total health, and all potions that are currently in your inventories and stashes will be converted. Monsters getting lots of new little affixes and changes to existing affixes. Arcane Enchanted has been improved in that it shows you which direction it's going to start rotating when it spawns, so you don't have to guess there. Desecrator starts at a low damage output but quickly ramps up to maximum, so Desecrator won't instantly drain your health right away. It gives you a chance to get out of it. You're not going to escape damage. You're still going to get hit on the first few ticks, but it's going to be much more slowly so that you can actually respond to it. But if you don't respond to it, you will start to really hurt. Frozen going through some adjustments. The number of frozen crystals spawned by monsters with the affix has been increased. It no longer increases with how many players are in the game. So it's always going to have the same amount, but they have increased that amount. The crystals will deal area of effect damage over time to players as they build up to their explosions. So no longer are you safe standing next to one before it explodes. You're going to get some damage from that. So, and this goes into their philosophy of providing damage from monsters that is unavoidable now, because they want you to have a gauge of if you should be in a level that you're at. So the more damage you take that's unavoidable and you can recover from that, the more you kind of understand if you should be surviving in an area. So whether you survive by potions or through skills or gear, you'll kind of have an idea if you should be where you're at, and then as long as you can avoid the big damage, you should be fine. So the Frozen Crystal will now deal the area of effect over time to players as they build it. So yeah, that's what we just went over. Speaking of unavoidable damage, Jailer and Vortex will now apply a small amount of damage to a player when they are used. So once again, getting you used to that, you will be taking damage. Sometimes you can't avoid it. The big hits will still be avoidable. Mortar has an outer impact area that deals less damage than the center of impact, so it's kind of a splash, more damage at center. So kind of like you see in a lot of other games where you got the damage kind of tapers off further away you are. It will now detonate if it vertically hits a wall. So that is not entirely clear, but I believe it should explode on the wall. The issue with Mortar, as I saw it on live servers, was anything that hit a wall would just drop right where it stood. So if you had Waller with Mortar, you could end up getting all the mortars dropped right on your head because they wouldn't go over the wall and they would land right on top of you. So it's nice to see they will just blow up. Plagued monsters will sometimes drop a pool under players as well as under themselves. So slight changes there. Reflect damage no longer reflects a portion of incoming damage. It is a fixed amount of damage per attack. Now that's also with the fact that reflect damage is not always on. That was a change made a while back. There's also new affixes added to monsters. You have a Frozen Pulse. It's a shard of ice that follows targets around before it freezes in place and pulsates cold damage in a small area. Orbiter is a nexus of electrical energy. It's surrounded by additional balls of lightning that orbit in a large area. That is one of the cooler looking ones in the expansion, which is nice to see. Poison Enchanted is globules of poison matter that spread in a cross pattern, dealing damage to those caught in their wake. That's a big one. It can cover a very large area and can be very difficult to avoid. Thunderstorm is a powerful bolt of lightning that strikes the ground and emanates a small wave of electrical energy. If you haven't been paying attention to the changes to that one, it should drop in a location and then you can move out of it. It used to chase you, so it was nigh impossible to avoid the damage, but the damage was very high. So what they did is made it so it couldn't chase you anymore because they felt it was a little unfair the way it was. But they did increase the damage of it from the last time I played, so it may stay put, but it's going to hit a little bit harder. Wormhole. A pair of portals appear, dealing damage as it tears unfortunate targets from their location and transports them elsewhere. So there you go. Those are all the new affixes plus changes to the old ones, so it is going to feel a little bit different out there in the world of Sanctuary. Damage is a very different animal now, and especially with the new skill changes, you'll see that there'll be kind of a different focus, I think, on what skills, abilities, or gear you're looking for, depending upon how much gear you've had already. I mean, some characters are going to have so much they may not even care. Me, I'm probably going to change up a few things. Alright, so monster density has been revisited. So we talked about that. The density has been retuned around the new difficulty system. Elite and champion packs can now spawn in larger variations of pack sizes. So this one's a nice change because it used to be that elites only spawned the same type of monster. So if you had a zombie, it only spawned with zombies. If you had, you know, a sandworm or something like that, they would only spawn with similar creatures. Now they can spawn with all sorts of different types of creatures around them, and it creates a much different variety now with elite packs because they are also elites just like before. So you might run into some monsters that complement each other very well and can be a little more difficult to deal with. Nice change here. Wasp projectiles can be dodged and blocked. Thank you. Just gonna say thank you. All right, Paragon 2.0. So this one has been the one of much discussion already, so it's been talked to death. Let's just go over it fairly quickly. Paragon leveling system has been completely revamped. There's no longer a cap on the amount of Paragon levels you gain. They are account-wide, share across all characters, and the levels are tracked independently between hardcore and normal. Players are no longer gain static bonuses upon achieving Paragon levels. The bonuses are currently earned by players have been removed, so your Paragon level will no longer give you the magic find or plus your primary stats. Instead, they give you points that you can distribute accordingly based on the level you have. Players earn points each level to spend in one of the 4 separate categories: core, offense, defense, utility. With the existing Paragon levels, you've been granted the appropriate number of points to distribute among your categories. And with these changes in mind, the Paragon leveling curve has been updated. So they have, I believe, made it a little bit faster to level than some of the previous beta versions, but you should notice a decent curve there of it gets harder and harder to level as you go up, but it shouldn't ever get to a point where it feels too hard. It basically evens out after a while, I do believe. Note that all Paragon experience earned across all characters prior to this patch has been totaled and recalculated to your new account-wide Paragon level. Paragon points can be allocated by clicking on the Paragon button in the character paper doll and inventory screen at the default hotkey of C. Social features. Now, this is not exactly the grand chat room that a lot of people were looking forward to from like Diablo 2. You don't have those really, but you do have clans and you do have communities. Slight differences between the two, honestly. I can't really say the big draw to either one, but they are there for those that wish to partake. Clans. Anyone may create a clan. Doing so gives you access to the clan window. Joining or creating a clan displays your clan tag next to your name. And clan members can view the members' roster, a private chat channel, and news info tab for the clan affairs information in the clan window. Now, this supports up to 120 members, and it requires an invitation to join. Players may only be a member of one clan. So you've got one clan, that's it, but you have all the social features that go with it. And it is invite only. Now, communities are a little bit different. Anyone can create a community, and you can view the community details, much like a clan. But community members have access to their members' roster, a dedicated chat channel, so again, kind of like the clans, news and info, You can join any number of communities that you wish, and communities don't have a membership limit unlike clans. However, if the number of members exceeds 100, only officers and above are displayed in the roster. They can be designated as private or public. Private communities require an invitation to join. So if you've got a public community, anyone can join it. So unlike a clan, you just go ahead and get right in it. Although private communities really seem more like a clan in this regard. So the difference is, honestly, looking at the differences, there's not much of one. So you can have a private community and be part of several private communities, and then of course have a clan to display your clan tag if you so desire. Communities are organized by categories, and they're included but not limited to class, regional, and game type. Lastly, under the UI section of the patch notes, several quality of life changes have been applied to the UI. Difficulty and game creation menus have been completely redone. When you log in, it will look completely different. It is quite nice. The in-game menu has been revised. That one I have mixed feelings about, but it is definitely different. The waypoint list has been replaced with a waypoint map. That one I like, very much so. You should also be able to teleport to any waypoint that you want. So instead of using the town portal to go back to town, you would use it as a way to go to different waypoints. So no longer do you have to go back to town and then revisit another waypoint. You can just be right where you're standing, hit the map key, and go to the next waypoint. So no more waiting around there. Skill tooltips now show damage type if the advanced tooltips are enabled. That's a nice one. You will actually see a icon of the type of damage over the skill now, which makes it very easy to tell what type of skill it is, even if the tooltip's not entirely clear. Several new social options have been added to support the clans and communities. They can be accessed under the Options gameplay menu. New chat colors that are associated with clans and community as well. There's an option to enable icons for dropped items instead of text. That's a new one on me. I haven't seen that option in play yet. You can go enable that in Options gameplay as well. And there's an option to automatically skip all cutscenes. I know a lot of people will be happy about that one if you've seen the story a million times already. That can be enabled in Options gameplay. Since we don't have adventure mode in the base game, that only comes with Reaper of Souls, I'm sure anyone that wants to play in the new 201 will probably want to turn that on. That's been through the story a million times. So, item labels for gold piles are no longer displayed, and this is to reduce visual clutter. Values are still displayed when the gold is picked up. Now that one has already gotten a few responses. Some people really want to have that back. I don't blame them. I kind of like being able to push a button and see how much gold dropped on the ground before I go pick it up, or if I even care to go pick it up. It's a minor grievance, so I understand they want to remove the clutter, but honestly, in situations like this, it's always good to offer the player a choice rather than say, no, you can't have it anymore. Alright, so that was the patch notes. A little bit of discussion on some of the notes as I saw it, so hopefully you didn't mind the slight opinion piece regarding some of these notes. Again, I know a lot of you have seen this before, have read and breathed this before, but it is basically a thing that I know has been requested. I just want to hear a patch note. I don't want to read it. It's too long or whatever. And so there you go. More than likely when they release the character changes, I probably won't go over that because there are so many changes and I don't really know all the characters well enough to be able to talk about it. I think that one is one you're either going to be better off experiencing or reading yourself for the class that you play. And it is extensive. Make no mistake about it. Just to give you an example, Barbarians had a rune for Seismic Slam that narrowed it to a very fine line, but it did a lot more damage. That's been removed, and it's been replaced with a Seismic Slam that does cold damage now, and slows the enemy 60%. Now, a lot of the slows have been increased to 80%, but this one's 60 because it's just in the normal wide area, so it hits a lot of enemies. But that kind of opens up builds a little bit. You can have a Seismic Slam that slows a group of enemies, allows you to either get in or get out, whatever you need to do. Lots of changes. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you coming by to check out the patch notes. It's been a half-hour affair going through these notes. It's pretty massive. So, I will see you guys next time. Enjoy the new Diablo 3 with patch 2.0.1. And I might see some of you guys in Reaper of Souls. I'm definitely looking forward to it. Until next time.